right. Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Welcome. Hello. How's everybody doing? Hopefully you're doing all right. Grateful and thankful to be with you guys again. Hopefully you guys are staying warm out here. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our redeemer. And it's in his name, which is his authority, claim, project, and protect today's message. Amen. Once again, hopefully everybody's doing well. And we appreciate your presence. We're thankful and grateful to you all for being on today. Thanks for spending some time with us. Trying to get our, okay, there we go. Trying to make sure that we've got our setup going for everybody on all these different platforms that we're on, that we're in. You can see where I am, not necessarily the greatest for making sure that we prepare for the, if we're on YouTube or if we're on Facebook, you can see that took extra precaution to try and keep a little bit of this cold out. Hopefully y'all are staying warm. I'm bundled up, coat, jacket, and some what do you call? It's not well, I guess it's thermal, but it's I forget what they call it specifically. But 3 pants on, had to go outside there and walk the dog, and like 8-degree weather. I know some of you were doing way with the weather that's way more colder than that. So hopefully you guys are staying warm out there. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice to the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Shabbat Shalom, Anai Kofi, ma shalom chi. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi, ¿cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi, ça va? Ni hao, namaste, Habari, Jambo, Mimini Kofi, Nina Fraku, Kukatan, and the Wewe. We are excited and grateful and thankful to be with you guys again. And Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Once again, we give all praise and honor to the Most High, Yahweh Elohim. We give all praise and honor to him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D. The letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. 2 great things going on today. Well, actually kind of 3, but 2 in 1. We're going to have the Women in Red event for our sisters I guess we can say 4 great things, one of them 2 in 1. First, we're going to have, after this, we're going to go right into Shabbat Shalom service with Minister Morel giving us a word. After that, we're going to go into SOC meeting, and today we're just going to do a little, we're going to do a little watch together. I'm going to try and start actually picking up on Twitch and doing some watch stuff where we watch some movies and things together. Today we're going to start watching Reclaiming the Throne on Tubi TV. And then we'll go from there to, after that, we have our Women in Red. And then Women in Red tonight, we're going to be having Minister Select Moselle give a word for the first time, her initial sermon. So we're excited about that. Keep her in prayer. We've been working to make sure that thing is righteous, and so far we've had great results. So I'm excited and grateful and thankful for what y'all's going to do. So to everybody, thanks for being on. To the moderators, the ministerial staff, SOC, we appreciate you. I believe I see the Honorable Maya on. How you doing, babe? The Elder Maya on with us once again. Check her out on TikTok, YouTube, or website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D. The letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And she is the one who has been leading stuff as far as if you've got the Women in Red packages, a lot of the great presentations as far as the tassels, and of course the Women in Red event, as many different things that she does in front of the camera, I guess we say, out behind the scenes, etc. We appreciate it. So thank you to her, and we appreciate you. Thank you to everybody who's on today. My voice is a little off today, kind of a little dealing with a few different things or whatever that had me a little off, but we thank y'all for this. So we finished up the Sermon on the Mount as far as the different chapters and verses yesterday, the Sermon on the Mount series, Matthew chapter 5 through 7. Technically, we really started all the way at Malachi chapter 3 and went all the way through the end of Matthew chapter 7. And as we try to, we'd like to end with some Q&A. So for those of you who might have some questions, comments, and concerns, feel free to bring them on today. Before we start getting into that, hello, how you doing, Sister Dawn? How you doing, Sister Beverly? How you doing, Minister Sharon, Minister Shantae? Everybody on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, we appreciate you. Hello, Sister Rhonda, Molly Earth, appreciate you. Caleb Bell, Brother Ali, LaRods, Nay, Miss Pierce, Kate Wells. Your temperature in Philly is 7. Yeah, we have, I think today is 8 or 9. I just went out and it was the wind chill is always the thing that makes it even worse. Wind chill makes it feel like it's even worse than that. Or -7. Oh, okay. Well, you definitely got us faded. Oh, we're praying for those. I know we got some people in Montana. I know in Montana yesterday or 2 days ago it was -30 degrees. So prayerfully they're staying warm. I know that they were literally not even letting the water shut off. So they could make sure that the water wasn't freezing. I know people in Texas were talking about putting this stuff together so that the pipes aren't freezing. Need help and need people to be looking over them all over the place. And so we're hoping that you guys are staying warm and staying safe. How you doing? Money Green, ASF, hello. Brother Vincent, thank you. Shabbat Shalom to you, Marie or Muddy. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Amen. Let's see. Her 3802. How you doing? Elion. Aphrodisiac. It's 37 in Florida. Wow. That's really, really, really low for Florida. And how you doing, Sister Tracy? I don't know how to pronounce this one. Gold and green. Itis, gold and green. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Thanks for being on. Grand Rising, Bakwar Tav to everybody. Hello to you guys. Bakwar Tav, Adnai Kofi, Shabbat Shalom, Mashalom He, Barak Allah At Sham Yachava. We hope that you guys are doing well. How you doing, Sheikah Shay? Taladi Dadi and everybody, if I miss your name, Abion, is it? Peace to you. And D Lee, Grand Rising. So hello, Big Roy. So if I miss your name, please charge to my head, not to my heart. But so we can go ahead and get into this. We only have a little bit before we have to get ready to transition into the Shabbat Shalom service on the Kofi Ofori podcast. So this is Q&A. Really, we finished this part of the series. And Sister Barbara, I think I saw your name. I don't know if I said hello to you, Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to you as well. So to everybody who's on, obviously you can catch up on this series on our podcast. You can catch up more on it on YouTube. You can also catch up on some of the stuff on Facebook. So feel free to look those things up. How you doing? Once again, Shabbat Shalom, Elion. And Rafterman, thanks for sharing. Shabbat Shalom, Sister Sharice. So any questions, comments, or concerns on anything that you learned, maybe anything that you want us to kind of refocus in, anything that we talked about in this series, or we can possibly even jump around a little bit outside the series as well that we did and answer some more questions. As always, we're prepared if necessary to go different directions. So if we need to speak on some things as far as even, worldly events, I don't pay attention to them as much as some do, but, I can try to help out with that, or we can speak on things and make sure that we deal with questions, comments, and concerns. We're here to give you contextual content, so contextual facts. I don't give you facts without context or context without facts. That way, it's not my opinion. And even if my opinion is something that varies or something, we can still be obedient to the word. How you doing, Big Brother Thomas? Hopefully, you guys made it safely and all that great stuff. Those in the D as well, who might not have been to escape. We hope that you're doing well. We're praying for Minister Nice and those that are in Indiana. I know Sister Barbara and a couple others in Missouri as well. So those can be interesting spots as far as the weather is concerned when it turns. Hopefully your roads are paved or not paved. Well, hopefully your roads are paved, but hopefully your roads are not dealing with too many potholes. Please be careful. That's one of the things that happens now, potholes and stuff like that now, especially for those places that aren't used to this much amount of snow. That's one of the first things when you if you've ever lived in a really, really, really cold place where it's just around 0 degrees all the time. That's one of the first things you got to be prepared for is potholes, things that look like they're not potholes but really are, all that type of stuff. People in North Carolina, we got a few of our people, including Minister Joseph, Minister Sharon over there. Prayerfully, y'all are doing all right. Oh wow, it took 25 hours. Oof, praise Yah for you. That's a long trip. That's a long travel. We praise y'all for your for the mettle, the toughness that you have to be able to make it that far. So before I start just running off at the mouth and just saying, going through review off of what I feel led to, or what I would like, is there are any questions, comments, or concerns? How you doing, Sister Betty? And hopefully you guys who are in Alabama, y'all are doing as well. Well, we have people all over the place, so prayerfully y'all are taking care. Shabbat shalom. Oh, amen. Thank you, Beverly, Sister Beverly. Sister Beverly said Shabbat shalom to my sister and brothers and family. Blessings to everyone. So, Sister Beverly, Sister Beverly, actually, it's wild. I've never even pronounced. I don't think I've pronounced your last name before. Is it Steiger? Steger? Sister Barbara, is it Steiger? Steger? Sister Beverly? And how you doing, Minister Select Moselle? I was just saying we're excited to hear a word from you later on, and we're appreciative of you. Oh, okay. All right. I just realized I don't think I'm so used to saying just Sister Barbara, Sister Beverly. I don't think I apologize. The surname thing is not really a cultural thing either. If you notice, whenever you become family with somebody, you don't really be worried about saying Ofori or saying, you know, Johnson or whatever somebody's last name is. You know, you just call them by the first name. But any questions, comments, or concerns, anything you guys want us to focus on, now's the time. Now's the time. Anything you want to talk about that maybe you think I might be able, even if I don't know a lot about it, might be able to at least give some kind of reference point that might help. Anything that I might be able to be of assistance of, please let me know. If not, I'll just kind of start, I guess, start where we start or start where I'm led. But we wanted to make sure that we came on here to serve you. And Shabbat Shalom to Sister Felisa. How you doing? Aubrey says, did you know it took Yahweh 6,000 years to create everything he created in those 6 days? Oh, wow. You don't have any power where you're at. Oh, wow. We're praying that the power be turned on and that those who are in the Tennessee area, in that area, they get everything that's necessary, and that you watch over Sister Deborah in Yahweh's name. Amen. Sorry to hear that. So what is that based off of? When you say it took 6,000 years to create the earth in 6 days, I would have to ask, what is that based off of first? Because before I answer that question, because it's not really cultural. It's not really like when they use the word day there, yam, it's not pointing to 6,000 years, right? So I would have to figure out what you're using as a reference point for that. I would have to figure out what you're using for a year is 1,000 years according to what? Because it depends. You know, like for example, in a dream, if you have a dream, like if it says time times and half a time, if it's talking about a dream, every day is a year. So that's 1,260 years. But depending on what it is, it can say if it's trying to get you to comprehend eternity and time, it's giving you a reference point, basically like, look, like a day to Elohim, it's like 1,000 years to y'all. It doesn't really mean much in the grand scheme of things to him, a day or a year, or you can reverse it, right? Like 1,000 years is but a day, you know? Like, so what's your reference point? When you say a year is 1,000 years, it's according to what? I just have to, not coming at you, I'm just trying to figure out what's the reference point. Because we got to figure out whose culture, what context we're dealing with. How you doing, Brother Alton? Right? Shabbat shalom to everybody coming on all the platforms. So it's a, because Yam just means a period of time. So when it comes to the first 6 Yams, Yam Aleph, Yam Bet, Yam Gabal, Yam Dalet, Yam He, Yam Vav, those are, we don't know how long each Yam was. It's a period of time. The first Yam, it's gas being presented through a universal statement, creation of the universe. You know, Barashat Allah. I'm sorry, Barashat Bara Lacham Atsham. I'm getting these words mixed up. Sorry, Barashat Aratz Elacham At Shamayam At Aratz. In the beginning, Elacham created the heaven and the earth. And then you have a gas, earth without form and void, darkness found the face of the deep, liquefies, and then confusion being separated from enlightenment, because light and darkness are not actual physical light and darkness, because that doesn't happen till Yom 4, the 4th day. So we don't know exactly how many years that is, but if you have that as a reference point, we just have to know the reference point. So where do you think the biggest takeaway? What do I think the biggest takeaway from the Sermon on the Mount is? So that's a great question. And hello, Sir Stephen, how you doing? Hopefully you're staying warm up there in the D. So Oh, just trying to understand it. Okay, so yom just means a period of time. So it doesn't give us a period of time. Remember, time as far as even years, days, seasons, and all that don't even exist technically until the sun, the moon, the stars come about for seasons and all that. But even still, with all that, time doesn't really exist the way we think of it until sin enters, because we don't need to have anything timed out. When Adam and Eve sinned, that's when you start seeing stuff get timed out, right? So when it says this person's this many years old, nobody cared about that until after sin. So it's kind of a difficult thing to say this is how long. And there's many theories on it, but they're not necessarily something that we can hang our head on. There's certain things that are supposed to be a mystery that's not for you to know until until we're in another form, so to speak. As far as the most powerful thing to take away from the Sermon on the Mount, it's kingdom. The kingdom of heaven. That's the main thing. The hearts of the fathers have to return to the children. The hearts of the children have to return to the fathers. What left the heart, or the lab, the passion, the hearts, the passion, what left the children was kingdom, was law, was regiment, was discipline, was the way we love one another, was righteousness, was us keeping our own characters, our own word, our own alphabet, our own nature. Right before this, we went over the Song of Degrees, Psalm 120 through 134. That's establishing kingdom and making sure that we comprehend the outer court, inner courts of it. How do you come before a king? What is true worship? Worship literally just meaning extreme respect, the most basic of definitions. So worship really just talking about how you are giving the most extreme respect to something, even by your words, wordship, things like that. It's a compound word. So the most important thing for us to get is kingdom. The kingdom of heaven is established. And the first thing he even preaches is blessed are the poor in spirit, those who've been told that spiritually they're not able to grasp this and grasp that, those that are being told that they're not worthy of this or worthy of that, those that are being told that you shouldn't be trusted or shouldn't be believed because you don't have the knowledge that somebody else does. All those things, like that's what Yahshua is really dealing with. He says, blessed are those who are poor in spirit, who've been told basically by the religious leaders, by the hypocrites, those who live, the hypocrites, the hypocrites, those who live underneath the criteria. Blessed are those who have been told by these hypocrites who don't even live by their own criteria and by the word itself. Blessed are those who've been told you're poor in spirit. Why? Because the kingdom of heaven belongs to you. That's why later on, Matthew chapter 5, verse 10 through 12, blessed are you when they revile you and say and persecute you and say all manner of evil against you for his name's sake. Blessed are they when they try to rebuke you and say this and that or whatever, because you're representing him. Right? Rejoice and be exceeding glad when that happens. Why? Because they did the same thing to the prophets. Later on, Matthew chapter 5, verse 17, do not think that I came to destroy the law or the prophets, right? But I came that it might be fulfilled and acted. The same thing that they were saying was bad back then is what I've actually came to do, the same thing, which is why you should rejoice and be exceeding glad. Verse 20, you should even know the law greater than the scribes and the Pharisees. Why? Because the scribes and the Pharisees, those who are supposed to be in charge of this stuff now, those who are supposed to be the stars that are supposed to be in his hands, the messengers, they're not in alignment, right? And that's Revelation, right? Revelation chapter 1. Those are supposed to be in alignment with these seven assemblies and teaching the word. They're not in truth. So blessed are us who are told we're poor in spirit, for the kingdom really belongs to us. Blessed are those who are told that we're Israel, we're told we're not Israel, but really we are. Revelation chapter 2, verse 9, Revelation chapter 3, verse 7 through 9, right? Revelation chapter 3, verse 7, Revelation chapter 12. Revelation chapter 2, verse 9, Revelation chapter 3, verse 7 through 9, Revelation chapter 7, Revelation chapter 12. We're blessed. When people say this stuff against us, all through the Sermon on the Mount, you continue to go on to Matthew chapter 7, verse 12, right? Do unto others as you want done unto yourself. What? For this is the law and the prophets. The law and the prophets that everybody keeps trying to get rid of, even back then, is what the hearts of the children are going to come back into, because that's the heart of the Father. The passion of the Father is explained and protected in this thing that we call the Bible, or the Torah, or the books, the scrolls, the Savar, the epistles, the letters, etc. So the most important thing that we can come out is with a kingdom mind. Aman. Great question. How you doing, Stat? Bright, thanks for being on. Draco, how you doing? Is he only talking to Israel? So in a sense, Yahweh is only talking to Israel in certain places. He's only talking to Israel, but he's only talking to Israel and anybody who can become Israel. Remember, not all Israel is Israel. So we're not just dealing with only the physical. We talked about that yesterday too, or not yesterday, a couple days ago now. We talked about how, believe it was on Thursday in the Rising, that there are a lot of people who are physical Israel, 100%, but spiritually they're half breeds, they're dogs, right? Matthew chapter 7, verse 6. We went into that a couple. Actually, yesterday we went into that as well when somebody asked another similar question. So yeah, so we should be aware of these things and be thinking of these things and be aware of these things, as well. But great questions so far. Great questions. Sorry, I feel like I just skipped something. It just made me skip down. I apologize. I don't know where we are. Accept me on. Accept me on. Okay, M Freedom. Accept you on for what? I didn't even see you come up. What is it that you'd like to be able to talk about? And then we can have conversation. And today is actually shorter than normal because we got to get ready for our Shabbat Shalom service. So before we accept you on, what is it that you would like to talk about? And just let you know, it's probably not going to be a really long, drawn out thing or whatever. But what is it that you'd like to talk about specifically? If you guys would like to come on, I say this all the time, try and get a hold of me. You can DM us, you can contact us. We have our contact information. We have ways of that's out there that you can get in touch with us. So feel free to contact us and let us know that you'd like to be on, talk to us beforehand, or, if I don't know you, I probably won't see your stuff pop up, but honestly, I didn't even see anything come on. So when you say accept me on, what am I accepting you on to speak on? If you don't, well, even if you mind my asking, I have to, I have to ask. Said my thought on Christ being esoteric physiological process of oil traveling up the spine on the and beyond. So I don't know that one specifically that you're talking about, as far as him traveling up the spine. But I don't believe in Christ being esoteric. I believe that Christos or Christ or the Anointed One, Messiah, Mashiach, Yashua, he is a actual person. And the scripture basically tells us that Paul tells us if we don't preach him, Christ, and him crucified, then we're kind of dealing with something that's pointless, because that's what all this is based off of. And so that in and of itself. Now, are there some things that we should take in a allegorical sense? If you want to talk about a parable being like allegorical, sure, there's some things there. But as far as him coming up the spine, things like that, I'd have to know more what you're talking about. Now, DNA wise, there's actually more of a conversation we can have with that as far as Yahweh, Yad Che Vav Che, which represents 10, 5, 6, 5, because you can't have DNA even form in the helix, in the double helix. You can't even have it form unless you're going to have that number pattern. So Yahweh's name is literally imprinted upon everybody's DNA. But that one specifically, I'm not really in a position to go deeper with that. How you doing, Marlon? Thanks for being part of the community. Is it Chris Kim? Chris Cam? Hey, how you doing, Yashir? Abava Kashabedi. Appreciate the question once again. Okay, let's see. Hello, Chantel Jackson. How you doing? Thanks for being part of the community. JC Romans, blessings to you. Hello, Angelic Sky. Splashon, thanks for being part of the community. If I miss your question, please forgive me. There's a lot of questions coming in, and we have several platforms on at the same time. So I'm always looking back and forth. So give me a chance. Hey, hello, Shabbos. How you doing, Shalom, fam? And Shabbat Shalom to everybody, whether you're on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. We appreciate your presence. You said I'm starting to understand myself, but I don't know what all I am to do for the Most High. Well, first things first is learn as much as you can about the culture of the Most High. Learn about culture, learn about things, and then what will happen is you'll start to develop ways of knowing your calling. What you're called to do. The word called literally means to be invited. You are designed to be something that nobody else has ever been designed to be. You are going to do something that nobody else can do. You are one of one, right? A whole bunch of sperm were released to be able to try and get you an egg to create you, and only one was successful, right? You have a strength, you have a ability that nobody else has. So that's a natural progression of things, is to realize what's going on. So learn more about Yahweh, learn more about the culture, hang out if you want to with us, or others who are going down this journey and learning more, and then start getting into some of these things, and you'll discover more and more and more. You said, what should you consider work on the Sabbath? I mean, that's one that everybody kind of argues about. If you're talking about what we deal in, if you can, sure, try not to have to cook anything. Try not to do any strenuous labor. Really try not to do anything that's going to take you away from focusing on Yah. And ultimately, that's what it is. Some people go to wild extents. To me, wild extents like I won't send an email. I won't get in a car and travel. Some people don't get their cars fixed because they're like somebody else. It makes somebody else have to work, but if you look at that, Yahshua himself, the son of Yah, he literally says to us, son of David, son of man, Messiah, he tells us specifically, like, Sabbath was made for man and man was not made for Sabbath, right? So you don't serve the Sabbath. Sabbath serves you to get in a period of rest, to allow you to rest. Also, he says, hey, like, which one of you, if your ox fell in a ditch, wouldn't get to work, so to speak, right? And start toiling and doing what's necessary to get that ox out of the ditch, because that ox represents money. It's going to represent your land. It's going to represent your family. It could become food at some point. So you're not just going to let it go to waste because it's Sabbath, right? And so we have to keep that in mind. So yeah, Sabbath, we want to make sure that we do whatever we can to focus on the Most High. I mean, they had, you had a temple on Shabbat, on Sabbath. But some people say you shouldn't do that. Like, it's very odd. So it's more so us trying to make sure that we get into a condition and realization. So there are scriptures and certain things that you can look up, and I would just Google some, and not look for anybody's even interpretation. I would literally just Google scriptures on Sabbath, or if you have a Bible app that can do so, type in the word Sabbath and literally just read all these verses and see what they have to say. But you'll discover that, it's really more so about just setting time aside to ensure that you're in rest. And technically, once you get that mindset, you realize that every holy day should be treated like Sabbath. Put times aside for that. You'll also realize that we should try and enter into rest as much as possible. See, because a lot of us toil 9 to 5. I got to sign in here. I got to make sure I make this much money. I got to do this. I got to do that. But for real, we should try and make sure that we have as much rest as possible. A lot of people stressed out all the time for a lot of different reasons, because we're toiling away, but we don't put time aside to rest. Our minds are toiling. Our minds are spinning, a mile a minute. And, like I'm the type of person, even if I'm going through some mental stuff or mental health stuff or whatever, like, I may or may not even speak on that day. I'll pray about it, but it might not be for me to speak on that day or to teach or to help somebody else out, because I need to be at rest in who I am and my calling and this work and this great governance of the kingdom that the Most High has allowed me to be a vessel of. You better make sure that you're in a place of rest, at least enough to get through what it is that you're going through. A lot of times we're dealing with all types of physical issues that manifest because we're not at rest. Heart attacks, hypertension, high blood pressure, stressed out, even when your organs start to fail, it's because your body can't be it can't be stressed out and be doing all this other stuff. So, like, for example, you should be using the restroom after every time you eat. But we have digestion issues. So a lot of people might only use the restroom once or twice, 3 times a week. And you think that it's normal, but your body has actually shut itself down because it can't digest. So if it can't digest what's going on, if it can't digest the food, if it can't digest things that are happening, it can't do it because your body's trying to deal with all the stress. So it literally shuts down and says, well, it's more important for me to fight a battle. Your body doesn't distinguish the difference between, hey, I got a bill or a bear's attacking me. It just knows stress. So if your body's stressed out and you're stressed out and everything's stressed out and you have no rest, you have no mindset, you have nothing that you do to when a bad thing happens. This is how I think. This is how I, zero out. This is how I have an exercise that allows me to see every part of the inside of my body in a spiritual sense. I have an exercise to breathe in and out. I have, I can do Tai Chi, I can do some stretches, I can do some breathing exercises, whatever the case might be. A lot of times you'll be stressed out. So it's really more so for us to enter into a day of rest. Obviously, there's certain things we shouldn't eat and drink as well, but that's really what you're dealing with the Sabbath. How you doing? Almost Dope. Okay. Hello. Great, interesting name. How you doing, Shama Shama? And how you doing, brother? You said, hello, how do you see perfection in Matthew 5:48 verses under the law and Genesis chapter 6, verse 9? Okay, so we just went over Matthew 5:48 in the series. It's not too long ago, but let's go ahead and go to Genesis 6 and 9 first. Because perfection, we're dealing with the character none. We're also, right, which means a growing point, a maturing process. But let's go ahead and look at Genesis chapter 6, verse 9 first. Yep. 16:11 today. So these are the generations of, oh, hold on. So you said perfection? Okay, so Matthew chapter 6, verse 9, these are the generations of Noah. Noah is just a man and perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with Elohim. Well, I can already, so I think I already know where we're going. We could pretty much already put a pin in that. I would suggest to you read the book of Jasher's chapters 3 through 6. We just went over that in our men's meeting this month. It's actually required reading for men of Israel to make sure that we know the book of Jasher. That's actually written in your 66 books, that you should read the book of Jasher. Yet for whatever reason, we listen to people that say we shouldn't read it. But it's actually told you, especially as a man, that you should be reading the book of Jasher. But let's go ahead to Matthew chapter 5, verse 48 now. And let's look at that one. So I would actually, and I'll tell you why you should go read the book of Jasher, because it'll help you out like right away as soon as you start reading that. But let's go ahead to Matthew chapter 5 and verse 48. Okay. Matthew chapter 5, verse 48. Be ye therefore perfect as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. So perfect is mature. And once again, so now let's do this. If you go to the book of Jasher, it explains to you. You'll see this saying. We oftentimes only think about things through a prism or a culture or whatever that's not a great reference point for us or a great lens for us to have the eye in or the countenance of what the scripture is saying. So when you look at this word, be perfect, perfect is like legit. They followed the law and they pass on the law to other people. So when you look at the book of Jasher, a lot of people don't know about Enoch because you've never either read the book of Enoch or you've just never read anything outside the 66 books. So Enoch is like a mystery to many people. Not supposed to be, but he is, because we don't look at anything else that involves Enoch. So if you look at it, Enoch, it says that men, when Enoch was around on the earth, men were wilding out, acting up or whatever. Enoch has a son. And when he has a son, he started getting into the word. He started taking his family and separating. Then he himself started separating, being in the presence of the Most High for long periods of time. And then an angel came to him and said, okay, you need to start preaching what you've been getting from the Most High to the men of the world, to the sons of men. So he goes and he preaches to the sons of men. He preaches to the sons of men, gets to a point to where all kings, all princes, and eventually all the men of the earth actually started listening to the word. And so he did so really great. And then Adam dies. When Adam dies, they have a funeral, pretty much like the first, what we consider funerals to be today, first one of its kind. So once that happens, it said he stopped being king after reigning for 243 years. He stops and he goes and he bows down to worship, he goes and starts separating himself again. So worshiping the Most High and learning from him and having time with him just by himself. As he has that time with him by himself, he starts coming back less and less and less. And it says that to the point to where the men started saying, where is Enoch? They went looking for him. And when they saw him, one of the last times they saw him, it said his countenance was so great that it was like a bright light, like they almost couldn't look upon him. Right. So when you look at that, yeah, Enoch can be hard to comprehend, right? That's why we should make sure we read other books as well, right? So when you look at Jasher tells you like, oh, okay, like, so Enoch got to a place where he was so bright that men couldn't even look upon him. And it talks about that going on, but he had reigned and men listened to him. When he dies, his son, who comes up next, his son Methuselah, becomes the next king. And Methuselah's part of his name even means an arrow, somebody who's pointing or directing us, who's going to shoot the arrow at the target. And people thought it might be his son Lamech. But it actually ended up being his grandson Noah. He's the one who actually named his grandson Noah, or Naach, right? Which, if you look at his name, literally means none, perfect. So Nun, N-U-N, is how we pronounce it in modern Hebrew. Nan would be how we would pronounce it in Paleo Hebrew, but Nun meaning perfect. And then the next part of his name, Aleph. So Na'ah, Aleph meaning that he's with the Father. And then He, Holy Spirit, led by the Holy Spirit. So that's what Noah's name meant. And his grandfather, Methuselah, named him that. His father, Lamech, whose heart wasn't all the way in the word, and never really got to the same place where he was teaching the sons of men, but his son Lamech actually named him uh, Menachem. Menachem, literally meaning his name is Mem Nun He Mem, meaning that Mem on both sides are water, and in the middle of the water is Nun He, is perfect, perfection. Oh no, I'm sorry, Hit. I'm sorry, I said it wrong. It's Mem Nun Hit Mem. Sorry, which is water on both sides, and then perfect protection in the midst of water. So his father, even though his father's heart wasn't all into it, his actual name is Menachem, meaning that he is perfectly protected from water on all sides. But his grandfather Methuselah, who was still preaching to all men and preached till the day that everything started to go down with the flood, him and Noah, he actually raised Noah more than his own father Lamech did. So Noah and Methuselah actually preached the word together. And it says, even in Jasher, it says that he was perfect in his generation. Enoch is considered also to be perfect in his generation, right? What does that mean? That meant that they were mature and they were preaching the word and living by what the word says and teaching others how to do it. Now, flip back over to Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5, let's go to verse 19. Matthew chapter 5, verse 19 says, those who break the least of commandments and teach others it's okay to do so are considered to be the least in the kingdom of heaven. However, those that teach people the law and live by it, they're considered to be the greatest, right? So we're talking about perfection concerning law. Kingdom, which is the most important part of the Sermon on the Mount, is also going to come with law. Now, law doesn't give rights. Law protects rights. Law doesn't mean there's an absence of grace or absence of mercy. Law just means that there's that you have something to protect those things. So if you want grace and mercy to be protected, that thing that you want to have so much, that thing you should be giving, then there's law. Now we go to Matthew chapter 7, verse 12, right? Hey, do unto others as you want done unto you, unto yourself. That is the law and the prophets, right? So which is the law and the prophets. So please don't forget that law and the prophets helps you to make sure that what you're doing to others and what's being done unto you is righteousness, right? Lawful standing, right? Legal standard. So there's a lot in that. So when we're talking about being perfect, that's the vein, that's the mindset. It's the same thing. It's not something different. It's not different types of perfection. It's the same maturity. It's the same thing. So those are things that are there, right? So when we have more comprehension and we have more stuff as far as culture, then we're able to make see what that's doing. You said, what about working out? Nothing wrong with I mean, I don't know. Some people would say you shouldn't exercise or whatever. I don't think there's anything wrong with you doing some stretches or doing some push-ups and sit-ups or whatever to your body. Some people would argue against that. But once again, it's really about making sure that you take time out for the Most High. But once again, like if you're a workout warrior, things, or if workouts that powerful, if you think that that's something's going to take you away, get your workouts in to where you don't have to work out on the Sabbath. You should have a rest day anyway. Some people have cheat days and stuff. Why not have a rest day on the day of rest? Baba Kashan, how you doing, Hebrew Awakening? Thanks for being part of the community. I feel like I missed some of this stuff. This thing scroll down to get on the song. Aman. All praises. Hallelujah. At Abba. All praises to the Father. Did I get your email? I had to double check. I've been getting a lot of emails recently. Yesterday, towards the end of the day, I didn't really have I didn't really have the right space to get stuff done, if I can say it like that. So I was kind of all over the place with some things, and then had some stuff to take care of. So I might not have gotten it. I'll double check on it. You said you just spoke on study. Is that today? On study, is that today? I'm not sure. On study. Studying is always there, but I'm not sure if that's what you meant. I'm sorry. It's a fluid from the brain down the spine back up to the pineal. Yeah, so like I said, I'm aware that there's fluid and stuff like that, but as far as the correlation of Yashva being this fluid, like I don't believe that being esoteric, like I said earlier, but I had to double check it. Thank you, Pure Blood. Was it Patriot? All right, thanks for being on. You said you've heard that Enoch would be the closest to Yashva. Any truth to that? I mean, if we're doing that, then you have to say that also Elijah would be as well. Elijah would be that as well. if we do that there, we have to kind of talk. We have to bring him up as well, because he was also caught up in the same manner. We had to talk about Methuselah, and by the way, everybody really, Seth, Enos, Enoch, not well, actually even Lamech, whose heart wasn't all the way in it, but everybody except Noah, they basically, even if they weren't translated, it says that they were literally taken out before the flood, so that none of them would have to see that great and powerful day that was going to happen. They wouldn't have to experience any of that because of that family's faithfulness. We oftentimes just think about Adam, and therefore Adam's sin and all this stuff, but Adam taught all these children of his the truth, which led to Noah. It's a continuous line. And even Nana'ah, or Nama'ah, his wife, she was powerful. She comes, she was part of the family lineage and stuff too. And yeah, but I wouldn't say anybody was the closest to Yashua outside of Yashua. Yashua is one of one. You can also talk about Moses. Now, Moses died, but his body didn't get buried. His body was taken up to the heavens, and him and Elijah came back in the transfiguration. John the Baptist is said to have been the greatest man born of a woman. There's a lot of different things that we can go by. So I would say that a lot of those things are things that we would have to look at, to think about, to make sure is, are things that we are aware of. Let's see. You said, where in the text does it say to read the book of Jasher? Read when David, go and look up when David is talking to Methuselah. After David has become king, Saul's relatives, a few of them are still around. One of them, who's crippled, was dropped at birth and messed up, and has been crippled his whole life. And he's afraid that David's going to try to kill him. David says, go get him. And he's still not going to touch Saul's anointed. So he says, go get him. And when you bring him back in, make sure that he's read the book of Jasher. And the exact scripture, I don't have that at the top of my head, but you can, if you Google that, try to find that, do a little bit of research, you'll be able to find that. He tells him, make sure that he's up on the book of Jasher. He's not coming up in here. Like, I don't mind him coming in. I don't mind, not touching Yahweh's anointed, but he's not coming up in here especially if he's a man and he doesn't know the book of Jasher. Now, if you recognize the culture and you learn about the culture, you'll realize that that's something that's mandatory. That's why we are right now in our men's meetings are going through the book of Jasher and are asking our brothers to read the same thing. So if you'd like to be a part of it, if you're a brother, and eventually down the road, we'll probably make sure that we do it for everybody. But, it's something that we should have been established for us as young boys. So right now we're focusing on the men to ensure that all of them are in alignment with the book of Jasher. You said that Lazarus has mind control. I don't know which part you're talking about, Brother Elijah. You're going to have to help me out with that some. I don't know. As far as I know, the answer would be no, but I don't know exactly what the context of the question is. Said doing righteousness on Shabbat is not against the law. It's said by Yashua. Yeah, that also too. It said there, but righteousness, remember, righteousness is right lawful standing or right legal standing. So whenever you see the word righteousness, it literally is talking about right lawful standing. So when it says your righteousness, your right lawful standing is as filthy rags. So it doesn't mean righteousness is as filthy rags, but ours is. So it has to be his. So as long as we do his righteous standings, right? So definitely, I would definitely agree with you about that. And we have to make sure we're aware of that. Let's see. Great questions, by the way. Thank you so much. Okay. I'm sorry. I might have missed some questions. I'm trying my best to keep up. Can you do keywords? I don't know keywords. I mean, I guess you could type in keywords if you have an app that does so, if that's what we were talking about. Thank you for the compliment. Appreciate that. What denomination is he? What denomination am I? I'm non-denominate. Well, I have one denomination. The denominator is Yashua, the son of Yah, or the kingdom, the foundation. Yahweh, Alacham. Like, there's only one denomination. If you do math, right? All of us have done basic math. If you're dealing with fractions, right? You have a numerator and a denominator, right? A numeration and a denomination. Okay. And so you have the fraction, and you might have something that says 1 plus 1 equals 2. Now, why does 1 plus 1 equal 2? You're saying what you're doing, we're not thinking about it. What we're doing is we're just dealing with numerators, right? Or the numeration. 1, which is over 1, plus 1, which is over 1, equals 2, which is over 1, right? But if I ever change the denominator or the denomination, it becomes 1. Like if I do 1 over 1 plus 1 over 2 equals 2 over 7, it doesn't make sense. It would never make sense. It's not something that you can operate in. You could write it out if you want. And so what's happened is that people have actually been changing the denominator, and really the only thing that allows us to add up and come together and therefore get more and grow and establish and become kingdom minded. The only thing that happens is that the word has to be the proper interpretation. It has to be the denominator, it has to be foundational, as we talked about yesterday, right? It has to be built upon the rock and not built upon the sand. Remember the difference we talked about yesterday, even just in a basic scientific thought process? The reason why it's better to build on rock than it is sand is because rock, the mountain, would be one, right? It would just be one rock. But the sand has many different particles, has many different grains, right? So sand, when it gets wet, when the storms come and everything, it's easy for it to fall away. But when there's one rock, when it's Aleph, that's why the most important commandment, Deuteronomy 6:4, is quoted by Yahshua. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh Elohim, Aleph. He is one. Once he's one, then you can love him with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength. Then you can put the second that's like it, which is now 4 commandments. Love him, right? Make him one. And 6 commandments, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Honor your mother and father, your neighbor. Don't lie to your neighbor. Don't steal from your neighbor. Don't kill from your neighbor. Don't commit adultery on or against your neighbor or with your neighbor. And then don't covet. Don't want what your neighbor has. Right? You put those together, then the second like it is this: to love your neighbor as you love yourself. On that are all the other commandments. And even when somebody asked the question, well, who is my neighbor? He said, well, look at the deeds. Look at how they follow the law. Look at their actions, their ahaba, their love. And then you'll be able to see him. That's why later on he says, a new commandment I give unto thee, that you love one another, right? But don't just love one another. He said, love one another the way that I have loved you. By this will men know that you are my disciples, that you are disciplined in your actions. Your love towards one another will be the thing that says to people, wow, they are his disciples. Our working definition for love, by the way, here at SOC is love is an action so powerful it brings about description. It is also a description so powerful that it brings about manifestation. So yeah, don't really do denomination in the sense that everybody else does. If you want to call me something, you can call me Follow It Away, son of Yashda'el, son of Zion, kingdom minded. You can call me Kofi, but I'm definitely not worried about which. Really, usually when we even use denomination, most people when they talk about the Bible, we're talking about Christian denomination. I'm not a Christian. I'm not Christianos. How you doing, Sister Marion? How you doing, JoJo? Thanks for being part of the community, everybody. Thanks for being on. Shabbat Shalom to everybody on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. Thank you. We're doing some Q&A today, trying our best to get it in before we get ready to take our leave so we can get ready for the Shabbat Shalom service. All righty. So I'm going to scroll down some. Prayerfully, I'm not missing questions. I'm trying my best not to. Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. Yep, that's what we do. So Shabbat Shalom. It started at 6. Well, we kind of just do 6 p.m. Eastern New York time, but as a reference point. But yeah, sundown to sundown. Shalom to you. I don't know how to pronounce it. Klalobs. I don't know how to say it. CHOLOBXNY. Does it talk about it in Joshua chapter 10, verse 12? I don't know. Let's see. It could. It very well could. Okay. Joshua chapter 10, verse 12. Then spoke Yashai or Joshua to Adon in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said in sight of Israel, Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and and thou moon in the valley of Elion or Elon. Um, I don't see it there. You might have another version, or there might be. I don't know if you're saying it starts in Joshua 10:12. Now, if you're saying the same thing is talked about in Joshua, that could be. I had to. I don't have it on the top of my memory right now. How you doing, Old Head Energy? Thanks for being on today. Name is Steven. All right, I'll try to remember that. Is it Leone? Leone B, 1949. Shabbat Shalom to you. I know nothing about First Corinthians. Okay, well, it seems like you don't know anything about love. That's First Corinthians chapter 13. Learn how to love one another first. And it seems like you don't know about John 13. But okay, First Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14. All you have to say is, well, hello, I seem to disagree with you. What about First Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14? Right? That's when you become the light of the world and you become the salt. What great is salt? What great is all this knowledge that you claim to have if you've lost your savor? So just talk to me like a human being, right? You'll get a lot more. Most people would just shut you down or shut you off or just block you. I'm not going to do that to you, but I'm just saying, before you start complaining when other people do that to you, just treat them like a human being. You probably won't have to worry about, people doing that or complaining. If somebody's not listening to you, you probably deal with that a lot. But let's go ahead and go there. Doeth not even nature itself teach you that if a man have long hair, it's a shame unto him? I guess. I mean, who is he talking to? Is he talking to Israelites here? Whose nature? But that means also too the Nazarites, Nazarenes were all bad, which means that Yashai would have been somebody who would have been an abomination as well, according to you. I mean, you might as well make him an abomination. But let's also go to Ezekiel 44:20. Right? Like, there's culture, there's context to this. That's why it's always, weird when people speak on these things and don't have context, don't have culture. Isn't his long hair a shame to him? Well, yeah, if you're a Gentile, sure. And who's he talking to? Gentiles that are being mistreated. So he's saying, man, don't let these people get you down to the point to where you can't even come into the knowledge of who the Most High is. In your nature, let me teach you about things. So your nature, that's what a parable is. But let's go to Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 20 now. Neither shall they shave their heads, nor suffer their locks to grow long. They shall only poll their heads. Okay, so let's look at this. They shall enter into my sanctuary, and they shall come near to my table to minister unto me, and they shall keep my charge. We're going to go before it, by the way. All right, so I'm in verse 16 of Ezekiel 44. Let's keep on going. And it shall come to pass that when they enter into the gates of the inner court, they shall be clothed with linen garments, and no wool shall come upon them, whilst they minister in the gates of the inner court and within. They shall have linen bonnets upon their heads, okay, and they shall have linen breeches upon their loins. They shall not gird themselves with anything that causes sweat. And when they go forth to the outer court, right, even the outer court to the people, they shall put off their garments wherein they ministered and lay them in holy chambers. And they shall put on their garments, and they shall not sanctify the people with their garments. Neither shall they shave their heads, nor suffer their locks to grow long. They shall only poll their heads. Neither shall any priest drink wine when they enter into the inner court. Okay, so are we talking about when I'm in the inner court? Are we talking about if I'm in the outer court? Are we talking about if I'm in the temple? Are we talking about if I'm a particular type of priest? What family of this? Are we talking about a Levite? Right? Are we talking about somebody who's physically Levitical priesthood? Which one am I? Do you know which one I am? Right? But let's keep on going. Neither shall they take for their wives a widow or her that is put away. So are you ready to make sure that anybody who's preaching the word, who's married somebody who, they married a widow, they married somebody who used to be married to another man, are you listening to them? Have you listened to any of their sermons? Have you gone out on a date with anybody who was dating somebody or was having sex with somebody? Because in our culture, sex is marriage and marriage is sex. Have you gone out with somebody and then decided to go out with that person who was involved with somebody who died, who was her covering? I mean, let's just take it to where it is. You see what I'm saying? And by the way, are you in the land of your captivity? Which means, are you able to obey every single law? Do you live with Israelites only? Do you do these things or whatever? So who am I? Am I in the temple right now? Are we allowed to have a temple anymore? Am I not the temple of the living Yah? So I agree with you. Obey the law. There's certain things, though, lawfully speaking, that I don't have to adhere to because I'm not in the temple. Right? Even the temple, by the way, if you're going to go to Yashphai, who was somebody who would have had long hair, Nazarite, right? If you go into the temple, when he goes into the temple, was it the temple that the Most High said to build, or was that Herod's temple? See, so which temple are we talking about? Which time frame are we talking about? Right? Like, that's why you have to know your culture. I'm not going to get upset or frustrated about somebody who's trying to use ad hominem to bring me down or break me down, and won't even break down where we're at. Kingdom minded means everything in the kingdom. Be holy, be holistic. So bring everything into account. Don't just talk about some of the things, talk about all of the things. So yeah, okay. If I was back then and I was a Levite, right? And I was in the court and I came to the outer courts, I can't be in the outer courts doing specific types of things if my hair was past a certain length. Sure. I couldn't have shaved it ever. I couldn't have shaved it. But also, too, by the way, when the hair locks, so it also doesn't mean that it can't be. Let's just read it again, right? Right. So not suffer their locks to grow long. So it doesn't mean you can't have locks. It doesn't. It just means they can't grow long. Now, question for you: how long is long? Have you ever studied what they mean when they say long? Like, do they mean they can't hang on the ground? Does it mean that they can't allow them to go past their waist? Like, do some research ultimately to figure out when we're talking about, who we're talking about, what they're doing, all these things. To just say something random doesn't make sense. And that's really what it's coming off of. I'm sorry, Elijah, you said it seems when Yah has a direct interaction with a person, they possess great powers. Samson treasures his hair. Okay. Oh, okay. You were talking about earlier with the other part. Yeah. So, in a sense, I mean, if he touches you, you're definitely have some things on you, and usually people would preach. I would have to look a little more into it before I could answer that. Yeah, Samson definitely had long hair, but Samson, according to this person, wasn't a priest. I wouldn't even give him that. You said that there weren't clippers back, back then or whatever. Yeah, but it's a lot of different things. So when you say these things, you look like, let's be ready to go all the way with it. Let's be ready to be holy with it, holistic, not just, I want to take this one piece to tell somebody why they're not correct. Like, there is no temple. We're not supposed to have a temple again until the Most High allows us to go into New Jerusalem. And then it talks about that we'll be able to go into the temple when all these things are happening in the later chapters of Revelation. So we're not even in a place where we can have that conversation. I am the temple. You are the temple. We are the temple. How you doing, Sister Cynthia? So it's a different mindset. It's a different mindset. Peter, you said the Old Testament was a tool to teach discipline and maturity. There's no such thing as Old and New Testament. Somebody wrote that in, and we believe them. But that's called Nicolaitan doctrine, and it's part of Balaam doctrine. Two doctrines that you warned about in Revelation chapter 2, verse 15. There simply is testament. There simply is covenant. There simply is law. There simply is this. And because we messed up on the law, we were on the tightrope of the law, right? But we had safety net. We could do whatever was necessary on there, knowing that we'd be able to be caught. And we were perfect at one point to where we would never fall off of the line that we were walking on the tightrope. All of a sudden, Adam sinned, and now the net was gone. And so every time that we fell to oblivion, right? Now here comes Yahshua Mashiach to die so that we might be able to have the net put back in place. And so now that we had that net put back in place, we can walk on the line and start doing all types of tricks and doing all types of magnificent things that maybe we were afraid to do at first because we had nothing to catch us. But now that there's something to catch us, we should walk boldly. But there's no such thing as Old and New Testament. Somebody wrote that in. It's like somebody wrote in the word firmament. No such thing as the word. Matter of fact, firmament is a Greek god. Now, no such word as God. God is a Germanic title that they give to whatever deities can change into whatever they want. We don't serve a Germanic deity, so we don't serve God. We serve Elohim. Elohim is different than God. A God is different than a deity. A deity is different than a neter, et cetera, et cetera. In Kemet, they don't have any of that. They have neters. Neters is what Yahweh went against when he freed the children of Yashdel. Every plague that he gave, when you do the research, every plague that he gave was against a neter. There was a neter of the water, turned into blood, a neter of frogs, made the frogs population go out of control. A neter of dust, strike the dust and it turns into bugs, right? There was a neter of animals. Animals all of a sudden been dealing with some issues and stuff, right? There was a neter of the sky. All of a sudden, hail and stuff comes from the sky and fire. There was a neter of the sun. All of a sudden, the sun can come out. By the way, the neter of the sun was Ra, and the pharaoh at the time was supposed to be the son of Ra. So if he was the son of Ra, he was supposed to be the person that can go ahead and Ra in Hebrew, Ra is the sound for Resh or Rash, which is the head. So he was saying, I'm the head of everything, right? I'm the head of all. And so I'm the head of everything, including on the earth and even in the spiritual realm, right? After they make sure their heart is light as a feather and all that stuff. And they think they're going to take things from the tombs with them, from their pyramids and all that. So when he said, I'm the son of Ra, then what happened? He literally saw. So therefore, he was supposed to be in league with the one who controlled everything in the sky and the sun, and in the sky. And he said, "Okay, no problem. I'll make it dark for 3 days." Right? Like all these things are dealing with like an actual culture. We miss a lot of stuff in the culture because we don't really recognize what's going on. Yeah, yeah, the word God was added to the Bible. And look at the times of Charlemagne and other things. You can tell timeline wise when this stuff happens when you even start reading the versions and when they came out. And we are followers of the way, right? And locks are fine, they identify. But once again, even when we're talking about that, you're talking about when we're in a physical temple with the locks, right? So if you get me in a physical temple that the Most High allowed to be built, then yeah, you know what? I have to consider if I'm going to still do things as far as the Levitical priesthood, then I have to consider that my locks can't grow long. Now, what long is to you or long is to the Bible or long is to the word, we have to have that conversation. But we're talking about a lot of things without cultural reference point. How you doing, Paul? Thanks for being part of the community. Appreciate you. Yeah, Numbers chapter 6. Look at that Nazarite vow, right? You lost here? Well, I'm sorry. I don't know if you came on a different thing. We're just trying to answer questions. So, great questions, by the way. I'm just saying the way that was done, you might want to make sure that you treat people with respect. So it's easy. You said, so everything is correct is written by the prophet. I, I guess, Monica, which prophet are we talking about? I'm not sure what the reference point is there, but sure. The verse in Revelation. Oh, Nicolaitan doctrine probably was when I was talking about Nicolaitan and Balaam doctrine. We're told not to deal with Nicolaitan deeds in Revelation chapter 2, verse 6. We're told not to deal with Balaam or Nicolaitan doctrine in Revelation chapter 2, verse 15. Revelation chapter 2, verse 15, by the way, Balaam doctrine is a doctrine that was specifically made to trick Israelites into not obeying the law and to make people think that Israel is not important. And in Nicolaitan doctrine is literally Nikos laity. If you go to a church, they'll say that there's people who are in the pews. They'll call them lay people. So you're just the people in the pews. Nikos means conquering. So when you hear these people and talking to people in the pews, that's a doctrine that's being lifted up saying that you deserve to be conquered by what we speak. And we're supposed to be careful about that. So we have a lot of different things we're talking about without contextual value. Yeah, and cutting one's hairs can weaken you, especially once again if it is a connection point with the Most High. Why was Samson's connection to his hair so valuable? Because the Most High said, "Hey, if you cut his hair, right? If you cut his hair, he's gonna." So long hair is not a requirement for everybody. That's the wild part. We're not saying everybody has to do exactly this. You have free will, you have the right, and you have a calling. There's somebody there that can have a razor touch their head, right? But we're talking about a Levite at a specific place in the temple at a specific time, then yeah. Now, if you want to go by that and say that I won't have a razor touch my head, but at the same time, I won't allow my locks to grow, right? And then also, here's another thing. I don't know the person who made the statement, but here's another thing. Usually what happens is that person who's saying it, who's trying to hold you accountable to that standard and say you shouldn't talk about it because you don't live by it, they probably have razors that touch their head, and right, and they probably don't even have locks. So, what is it? Do unto others as you want done unto you, for this is the law and the prophets. Like, you don't do it yourself, right? Take the beam out of thine own eye before you talk about the mote, which is literally the straw that blows in somebody's eye, or it could be like a little tiny piece of bark or a splinter. Before you talk about the splinter and a little straw that's in somebody's eye, take notice of the beam that's in your own. Remember, we talked about that, and even that boorish situation. Some people are just boorish. Matthew chapter 7, verse 6. You said there were some things that were necessary in order to spread the word. Sure. Grand rising to you. I am so lucky to be alive. How you doing? My Furlough. Thanks for being part of the community. Thank you. I appreciate it. I can't remember Godfed. I can't remember the name. You gave me your name earlier. I apologize. It takes me a little bit to get these names. Once I get them, I got with the what you have on here. It'll come to me better. You said, what was Mark and Thomas' real name? Because those are my first and middle name. And what can you tell us about these men? How would you know what tribe you were from? At this point, it's kind of difficult to know the tribe in general. I happen to know just because I know of my family lineage. So if I actually just do, like, since I know who came from where, I can actually track back before people had to use DNA tests, know that I knew, oh, okay, like I'm Shwe, which means West African from a specific place where the tribe of Judah was on a map of Negro land. Like, I have no problem with that as far as there. But a lot of people, it's kind of more so even spiritually a prayer at this point. You're just kind of trying to figure out what you identify with, and what the Holy Spirit really means to have you identify with, more so than anything else. As far as Mark and Thomas, if you just want to know what their names were, let's see. Thomas, I'll be forgetting what his actual name was, so forgive me. Hold on one second. Sorry, we can answer that real quick. And there will be some people who will, like, disagree with me or whatever on the pronunciation, but it is what it is. So let's see. Sorry. Let me go back. I just had it up. I don't know what happened. Okay, here we go. Yeah. So if you're talking about, you said Mark and Thomas, right? So Thomas, what they'll try to tell you is his name is something more like Thaddeus, but that's a misrepresentation of the pronunciation. His name is Tadaas, or Tadaas, or even can be Tadadaas. It'd be like Tav. So they'll say like more like Thaddeus or Thaddeus, but really it's like Tadadaas. So Tadadaas would be his name. Um, so Tadadas. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Hold on. Wait. Did I just say that wrong? I got so much stuff in my head, You know what? Give me a second. I'm gonna just go to the one I always use. I'm sitting up here trying to read off of somebody else's stuff. Now I'm confusing myself. Give me a second. I believe I'm right, but just give me a second. And let me just go. Let me just go to actually there. So I'm gonna just read them all. Okay, you ready? So there's two Simons. Technically, you would call them Shimon. All right. So the names of Simons are two Shimon, Sheen, Ayin, Memnon, Shaiman. All right. And that word actually means he has heard. Shaiman. Right. Matter of fact, when you hear the word, the name Simeon, it actually is like pretty much the same name, slightly different. So Shaiman, with Simeon or Samaan or Shaiman. Some people even put them together. Shaimaan, Shaiman. All right. So Shaiman. So that's what you're dealing with, and that it means he heard me. Right. So like Reuben means he'll hear me. Remember the first, you actually, when you look at Leah, and when Leah is having children, thank you for the love, appreciate it. When Leah is having children, and her husband Israel does not really love her like that because he was tricked into being with her. He they still have sex and they still have children. The first child's name is Reuben, right, or Raaban, but what we call Reuben, and or even really more so, it'd probably be like Ravaban. But we say Reuben. But Reuben, it means, he'll see me. Okay, we've been together. He's not doing this, but I gave him a child nobody else has. Okay, he'll see me now. And then their relationship didn't work. So the next child she has is Shaiman or Shamaan or Simon, right? But Shaman and Shaman, and that word means he'll hear me. So that's the second one. She's like, okay, he didn't see me the first time, but maybe this time he'll start hearing me. He'll at least hear what I have to say. Then she has the third child. That child's name is Levi, or who we call Levi, right? And Levi or Levi is speaking about it's speaking about, he'll be by my side. A Levite's supposed to be married to the Most High, right? Eve came out of the Adam's side, but the Levite should be born out of the Most High, right? Should be born out of his will, his laws, etc. So he'll be by my side. And he still doesn't do anything. So then the next child she has Yehovah, or who people call Judah or Yehuda, but really more like Yehada or Yehovah. When you get to him, his name, it literally means praise. So she finally says, okay, I'll praise him. So Shaiman is very important. Second name of the tribes of Israel. There's two of them with that name. So you had Shaiman, and then you also have Shaman, who's also known as Kavas, which we would call so that's Peter, Simon Peter. Some people call him Kephas, but it would be Kavas. All right, so that's Shaiman. You have two Shavans. Then you have James. James was actually known as Jacob, which is really interesting. Why would they call him James? His name would actually be Jacob. He's named after who we call Jacob. So James is actually Jacob, right? Which would be more like Jacob, not James. Now, this is also if we realize culture was happening on, not just within our own culture, but within the people who were writing the Bible at this time. That used to be something that was done all the time. So, for example, Joshua should actually be the name, if you're going to redo the name of Yahshua, his name should actually be Joshua, right? It should be Joshua the Christ in English type stuff or modern terminology, as well as it would be Joshua that came out of after Moses. Like Moses came after Joshua. Well, as Joshua was born to come and help us to be able to take us into the land of Canaan, right? So the land of this spiritual Canaan, just like Joshua took us into the physical Canaan. But they would change the name because sometimes they would at least use the excuse, we'll change the name because maybe people will get confused if we say, well, there's Joshua here, but then there's Joshua the Christ. Well, then which one are they talking about now? A lot of people that have the same name. So that's kind of nonsense, right? But that's something that people would do. So that's something to be aware of, right? But James is actually Jacob or Jacob. Right. Then when you talk about John, some people try to say Yahan or Yakanan, right? But really would be Yachanan or Yahanan. Yachanan, really. It would be Yad Hit, Yad Hit Nun. Yachanan. All right. So Yachanan is John's name. All right. And when you talk about Bartholomew, right? Bartholomew you're really dealing with Bar Talma or even Bar At-Talma, Bar Talma or Bar Talmai. And that literally just means he's the son of Talma or Talmai. Talmai, is something that's even dealing with somebody who was named outside of Israel. That person's name actually, I think, has to do with like like the Ptolemaic stuff. So you have to be careful with some of that. You can see how some of that was even in there. Now, when you get to Matthew, Matthew is Mattathiah, Mattathiah, the tax collector. And he was actually, it means a gift of Yahweh. Mattathiah is actually a gift of Yahweh, a gift of Yah, right? If my people were called by my name, so you hear a lot of Yahs, this and that, and things like that in there. All right, if you're talking about Thomas, um, like I said, some people have that other name for him. I guess like the most agreed upon pronunciation would be like Tama, or I would actually say Tavama, Tavama for Thomas, Tavama. But some people will go by other things or whatever. So I would act, but people such as myself would usually do Ta'ama, right? And so when you deal with that, it's actually like dealing with a meaning that can mean like a twin brother, right? Or twin, or somebody who's like somebody who acts so much like somebody. So Ta'ama, or or even Tavama, you deal with Thomas. All right, if you're dealing with though that who he was called Thaddeus, that's what I was talking about earlier. Sorry, I was, like I said, I was getting all over the place. That actually is the to that that person is actually, I don't know why I was dealing with Thomas. That person is actually Judas. That's actually a name for Judas. That's actually where that comes from. So you could even pronounce it more like the Avadas, but they actually would say it more like Thudis or Thaddeus. Now we say, but they would have said more like Thudis, not Judas. Remember, they didn't have a letter J either. So all this letter J stuff is difficult to deal with, right? Um, then when we get to um, who we call, I believe is Andrew, Andras or Andrew. It would actually be more like an Anadadavas, Anadadavas. And we're dealing with those things. If you're dealing with Philip, in Greek they just say Philippos, but there is no f sound. So if anything, there's actually a lot of conversation on what his name actually was. But if we were to try to make it like a Hebrew transliteration, which transliteration is always dangerous, I'll admit, but instead of it being like Philippos, you're probably dealing more with like uh, Vilipas or Vilapas, right? Would have been his name or closer to it. Right. And even, by the way, when I said Judas earlier, another name you can use for Judas, and said you don't have to go by the Theudas or Thaddeus. You can also go by Judas' name. Could have been literally, could have been Yahavadah, because Judas and Judah. So he actually could have been somebody out of Judah, right? So there were two Judases. One was Judas Iscariot and the other was not, but there are two Judases. So it's up in the air, but these are just names that were used for these people. But because people have kind of messed with the name so much, it's kind of difficult. Thomas, back to, Thomas and what was the ones, Mark and Thomas. And I'm sorry, did I even say Mark's name? I don't think I did. I might have gone through every other name except Mark. Sorry, hold on. So we're talking about Mark. Yeah. So here's an interesting thing. I'll put it to you this way, right? Mark, yes. So I'm gonna give you, yeah, so I'm gonna just give you this. So Mark, as far as, I was just trying to see if there's something, there's not too many people that back me on this, so I'm just telling you kind of what I've got from research. Mark, in period, the word Mark is the last character of the alphabet, right? So Mark is Tav. You could say TAV or TAUV. Mark is Tav. It literally means the place that it's marked is completed, it's finished. Now, right? So, um, so that's one right there. And for Thomas is escaping me right now. I don't know why. Because Tom is really using like a Yiddish thing, which is mixed with German and some other things, right? So Tom is not really a Hebrew name. Uh, oh no, I said Tom. Yeah. So Ta'am. I'm sorry, Ta'am. Uh, Ta'am or Tava'am. Either one, Ta'am or Tava'am. I said that earlier. Yeah, we went over that earlier. So now, if you're talking about Mark in and of itself, Mark, he is a person who is he was a writer. So Mark was a writer. So Mark was somebody, write novels, write excerpts, whatever you want to think of. He was a writer. So Mark has that mindset. Thomas um, is somebody who did a couple different things, but we know him more for being somebody who doubted than anything else. However, when we say Thomas doubted, Thomas also is somebody who I hold special to my heart, because Thomas is somebody who wants to know more. So Thomas is like, yeah, it's nice that y'all said that he came back, but I wasn't there. So until I see the hand, the holes in his hands, and I put my hand in the side, I don't really believe it. Right. And then Thomas takes us to the next level of faith, because Thomas had some doubt. Yeshua is like, the next level is when you don't need to do that. Thomas also is the one that's like, show us the Father. You keep talking about the Father, show us the Father, and allows us to have more revelation. So Thomas was somebody who questioned, and it's okay to be those things, right? But the goal is to not just stay on that level, but to become greater, and like Thomas would, even to the point of dying for others. Sorry, I spent so much time on that, and I know we're running out of time. So let me try to see if I can catch up and catch up and catch up. I know I'm behind. Let me see. Let me see. Wow, I'm really, really behind. I'm probably not going to get to all these, but forgive me. Uh, Thank you, Minister Nice. You said, I think DNA tests are fake. I think some of them are fake. I think some of them are real. I just think even when you get the DNA test, not all, like, knowing where a group of people live now, or knowing where a group of people might have lived then, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's, where those people were and what at the time that you're looking for. But, they can help out to a certain degree. We be having service live. And on what platform? So we have it on the Kofi Ofori podcast. I'll have that information as we get ready to take our leave from here, which will be in a matter of minutes. So we'll have that stuff there. You said from slave trade map, we are Hebrews. Yeah, look up Negro land. If you go even to the Library of Congress and you look up Negro land on the map, you will discover that when it's set, or if you type in Negro land at Library of Congress website, you'll see that they have a map that they've been holding on to, and that it's public knowledge. It's written in the 1700s by somebody who was not an African, by somebody who was not an Israelite. And they say that on the map they know where the scattered Hebrews were, and on the map they know where the scattered Hebrews were, and they know where the kingdom of Judah is. Same place that eventually be called the Slave Coast, and same place where you see all these castles like Amelia Castle and other things. If you've never been there before, you're going into Israelite territory, ancient Israelite territory. Still a lot of Israelites who are over there who follow the ways, and that takes you into places like Nigeria and Sierra Leone, and into Central Africa, into um, the Republic of Congo, all the way across to Kush, all the way across to Sudan, all the way up to Kemet. We're all over the place. All the way up, obviously, to even Libya, to Morocco, because you're dealing with Carthaginians up to a certain point too, who are followers of the way as well. A lot of Carthaginians where we don't talk about them as well. So there's a lot of places going all the way up into Canaan or Canav, and Phoenicians, all these different places. Syria. Don't forget that the kingdom of Cush goes into what you guys call the Middle East, so it spreads out some as well, which is why people even further east came. Remember, they came from the east when they saw a star in the sky, and they knew the prophecy that the Most High was, the Messiah was going to be born. So they came over from the east. So it's a lot of different stuff that we don't talk about. We forget even that in Chinese writings that they literally have to spell out certain things about the Bible in order to make their words make sense. If you're going to say family, you have to have 3 characters that are superimposed upon each other to make up the pictograph for family. It has to be 8 people and boats put together, right? And once you put 8 people and boat together, then you have family. So they know this stuff, right? They believe in Noah, they believed in Shem, they believed in Ham, they believed in Japheth, they believed in the flood. They believed in Shangdi, which was their name for the Most High. They said, or not their name, that was their title that they gave to the Most High. But they believed that Shangdi was Yahweh. So there's a lot of different stuff. We've shown you guys that Yahweh was something that was even written by those who now, are those who started having the Quran put only in specific language as far as what we now call Arabic today. They were using the term Yahweh right before all that happened, and even in the beginning of the Quran being written, meaning that Ishmael and Isaac had that connection, showing that same point. So there's a lot of stuff there that we already know about and we're already aware of. Okay, all right. I think I got most of these. I feel like I know I've skipped over some. Y'all forgive me, please. Shabbat shalom, Michael. Be safe out there. Thank you. If anybody got to go outside, please be careful. I walked the dog earlier, and it is extremely cold outside. So take care of yourselves. Let's see. Thank you, Minister Nice. Thank you, Sister Barbara, for the love. I didn't say so already. I think I did say thank you for the love earlier. So yeah, so I'll give you the information for the Shabbat Shalom stuff very soon. Hold on. Yeah, he was tricked with Rachel and all those things. Yeah. And Rachel ended up not just having those 4 sons, she ended up having 6 sons. And then if you add the maid servants that they started competing with each other back then, she technically had 8 children as well. So Bartholomew, your last name, born in Jamaica, you're Jewish, grandfather passed just as you became. I'm sorry, I missed the rest of it. Okay, well, welcome on. He said you struggled with the church, your life because of this. Yashua, Yahushua, says that there's one name unto salvation. Sure. Yep. The word name, it means to be, the word name means to be, means authority. It actually means Shem or Sham. So if somebody's Shemitic, you're actually saying that they have an authority, which is why it's important that we know who is Shemitic and who's not. When people say this stuff doesn't matter. How you doing, Sister Deborah? Hopefully you're staying warm. Is the father of life son called? So Yahweh is the name of Elohim. It's Elohim's name, usually attributed to Abba. Yashvai is the name of the Son, and then Yehovah Kakodash is the Holy Spirit. Also, Yashvai, the Son, he has another name that nobody really uses, Amanava'al, or what you call Emmanuel. That name literally means the mind of the Creator. Emmanuel literally is when somebody gives you Emmanuel, they're literally giving you the mind of the Creator. Whoever created it, this is their mindset on how you should use it. That's why you should read Emmanuel when you get it, or you should read Emmanuel when you get it. Right? Salaam alaikum, alaikum salam. What am I talking about? I don't know which part you say I'm talking about. We've been talking about a lot of different things. We're doing Q&A today on certain things, for sure. Oh yeah, Portugal, of course. Also Spain, of course. I didn't, if you want to talk about the Carthaginian Empire or the Moorish dynasties that were around and all these different things as well. Where's the best place to learn about Kemet? I mean, all over the place. Kemet, really start looking up things that are about chemistry, not chemistry, CHEMISTRY, but chemistry, KEMETSTRY. Now be ready, because there's going to be some stuff that's going to be a doozy. It's a different culture, and a lot of people, just like they do with the Bible, they're going to take a lot of stuff and run with it. I praise God that I have Kemetic family, and so I'm able to learn and grow and appreciate some things in different manners that others may not. But even when you get into like the confessions of Ma'at, by the way, like for example, somebody will tell you do these confessions of Ma'at, and when you read them, people don't even know this is how you read it. Read the confessions of Ma'at, go through your day, and you read them out loud. You're supposed to eventually memorize them, but you say them out loud. You live your day. At the end of the day, you say the confessions out loud, and then you try to remember, did I obey these confessions? Did I treat people with respect? Did I show love? Did I honor people? Did I respect people? Did I make sure that I honored, my nature or whatever that I follow? All these different things that they have. It all comes with culture. But they're into, obviously, if you're dealing with Kemet as well, you're going to be dealing with melanin, melanin crystals, different things that they were doing way back when. Like we keep acting like surgery is some new prospect. They did brain surgeries back then, and it wasn't like a whole bunch of people that do stuff now to where like they were removing parts of the brains or just attempting to study people and use it as a manner to mess people up or whatever, or thinking that people were crazy, so you had to hit them in the head or put them in these insane asylums and all that. No, like they actually did like real deal brain surgery, heart surgery. They knew about, well, we can't say Kemet particularly. We know in Africa, more northern central Africa, in places even like Uganda, stuff like that, you're going to see like they were actually doing, that's where the Western world learned about stuff as far as even how to do I'm sorry, you don't do a natural birth C-section. Um, you know, the even some people call it like a like a like a U cut or Ugandan cut. It used to even be called in some different ways or whatever like that. But when you do a C-section and all that, whatever they learn from that. So learning from there, you're going to learn a lot of different things that are natural. I would always suggest make sure that you're very strong in certain things spiritually, because you're going to have to put yourself in a mindset in order to comprehend their culture. You're going to have to comprehend the Netzer versus Elacham. However, you'll see that there's a lot of things that they know about, that also reveal a lot of stuff biblically in a different way as well. So, but yeah, there's a lot of different places you can go to learn about Kemet for sure. You said in the Hammadi, it refers to the father of life, the son of King Yahusa. Okay, well, in that sense, no, they're not the same person. If we're talking about culturally, the people who wrote the Bible, who lived by it, the people who wrote those scrolls, I wouldn't say that that's the same person. But once again, that's kind of a blind spot for me because it's not something I study. So take that with a grain of salt, if you will. Take that for what it is. Um, you said when somebody say, if you're Muslim, I'm Muslim too. Don't know if I said it right. What does that mean? I don't know that saying. I don't know that saying. I don't want to answer that. I'm not prepared to answer that. You said, or what Moses does, a lot of what Yahshua does. Well, they followed the law. Yahshua said, I did not come to destroy the law or the prophets, but I came that it might be fulfilled. He's going to do a lot of the same things Moses did, because he's going to do what he's supposed to. Matter of fact, he's of a lineage of prophets, right? He's not from the bloodline of, but he's from the lineage of prophets that goes back to whom we were talking about earlier, right? Or or no, we were talking about Methuselah. Sorry, he goes back to lineage of prophets, going back to Melchizedek. Melchizedek, who, guess what? Who the land was in the land of Canaan, believing in the Most High, was not an Israelite, was not 100% sure if he was a Hebrew or not, but definitely was not an Israelite. No such thing as an Israelite yet, but still was keeping the law. All these things when people say before the Israelites, that's why I say the law is not something, don't get it twisted. Don't just only look for 613 laws. Don't just only look for what Israelites are doing or what they're saying. You said, what version of the Bible do I generally study? I mean, I guess generally it's usually going to be King James or 1611 King James, but I study different things. I'm always about culture first. You've heard me say that word over and over and over again, and I really mean that. Like, go by the culture first. Everything is cultural. Anything you want to learn about, learn the culture it came out of, and then you'll be able to know what the belief should be about it. Because you should, proper interpretation, literally, even lawfully speaking, legally speaking, if you were to go to court and say that start talking about law, you have to be able to interpret the law. That means you have to have the mind of the creator. So when somebody says the people, you have to know the people doesn't mean everybody. When it says we the people in your constitution, or you're dealing with the word people in the constitution, the word people in the Declaration of Independence, doesn't mean everybody, because there's a people. That's why you have to know what people you are in order to know what person or persons you are. Person, persons, and people are three separate meanings lawfully, legally speaking, right? So that's why we keep saying you got to know kingdom law, marital law, universal law, natural law, substantive law, public and private law, all these different laws we keep mentioning, right? You have to know these different laws. If we're not careful, we get caught up on stuff when we don't know law, or we don't think there's anything worthy about the law. Thank you, Sister Round. Appreciate it. And thank you for the love. Appreciate it. Yeah, they make women lay down in the hospital to give birth, which is so wrong. Once again, that's somebody else's culture. Only reason they started doing that is because it was a French king who had a fetish for watching babies be born. So started having them lay on their back. A lot of people then started having them lay on their back, right? If the king establishes it, whatever king decrees, it must be established. So you got a lot of people that do that. But yeah, like the best way to have a child, best way to use the restroom, period. If you can get yourself a stool and have your feet sitting straight up. If you go to other countries, especially, Eastern countries, right? Certain Eastern ones, but if you go to a lot of countries, they have their um, you know, male or female, the bathroom is set up to where it's gonna lay straight on the ground. So you lay on the ground, or it lays on the ground. Think about like when you see the urinal that men are supposed to urinate inside. They have that same thing, but instead of it being um, up vertically, it's laid down on the ground horizontally, and you squat down over it. That's actually the way you're supposed to use the restroom. Those same muscles that you're using when you're using the restroom are also going to be the same muscles that you're using when you give birth. So it's a way of strengthening yourself, and then you're supposed to be in that same position when giving birth. And if you can, even do so in the water so that the baby's coming from water to water, right? And then you bring them up out of the water. You do not cut the umbilical cord, right? You don't cut the umbilical cord. You let it fall off naturally. And the afterbirth that's there is going to keep feeding the baby. What they do is they cut the umbilical cord, then they keep the afterbirth and they sell it to other people and feed other people rather than feed your baby. All right, peace, 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 King. You stay warm as well. So there's a lot of different things. Once again, that's why it's all culture. We had to figure out, we are never taught this. You got the same coat, great. You got great taste. My wife got this for me a while ago, so you got great taste. He has the best taste. But it just makes sense that naturally when you're having a baby, that the baby should come down, right? The baby literally shifts its body so that it would be able to come down, right? Even if the mother had no help, being in a squatted position, she could still be able to catch the baby head first as it comes down to be able to literally. Some women have done this. It's very rare that I've seen women do this, but some women have actually done this where they had to catch their own baby, right? Some of them had different pain tolerances or whatever. And by the way, even when you talk about the pain and the pain and the pain and the pain, like when after the pain is there for a while, you kind of become numb to it, and your body kicks in, right? You have that adrenaline rush, and your body says, "We need to give birth to this baby." So you'll still, you can go through, but what do? They're going to put all types of stuff into your spine, and they're going to drug you and therefore drug your baby. And then they're going to literally inject your baby with a bunch of stuff. They're going to cut off what's feeding the baby while you're still trying to get your milk together. So when you only have colostrum, and then they're saying you need to hurry up and get your baby on formula, which is fake food, and it's going to cause your baby to have all types of issues and stuff like that. But they're already trying to gear your baby up to be on a fake version of life. And the reality is that within its nature, everything should have been taken care of. Everything would have been taken care of had you just let natural law take place. And that's why we keep talking so much about law, right? That's why we keep talking so much about law. Law is mandatory in everything. If you think it's mandatory to stop at a red light, then you should think it's mandatory to stop at something that's causing you frustration and headache and anger and and madness and all this. Epidural is most certainly not necessary. C-section is most certainly not necessary. Natural birth is what you were created to be able to give. It's going to cause your body to do things that are going to help it to become stronger. It's going to cause the baby's body. Babies that don't go through natural birth, they have connection issues sometimes with the mother. Um, you know, um, and also part of it is for them to be able to literally, to push, to have a mindset to push. Like literally, we don't think about spiritual manifestation or things manifesting physically from the spirit or from the psychology, but these are all things. Like this is one of the most stressful times of a baby's life, is pushing from one area to the other. And we say we're going to take away as much stress as possible, but in doing so, like we try to take away all stress. It's not possible to do so, but also we end up stressing the baby out more by not allowing it to go through natural stress. By the way, when you're in that position, like I said, you're doing the same thing, you're using the restroom. Guess what happens? The baby will sometimes come into contact with a woman. She might urinate a little during this process. She might go number two a little bit during this process. And when she does, it hits the baby. Guess what happens to the baby's immune system? Baby's immune system says, we got to go. Let's go. I don't know what this is, but I'm not supposed to be touched by this. Let's get this together. But what do? They tell the mother, hey, I'm not only going to lay on your back, but don't eat anything. We're going to give you ice chips, but that's about it. Because they're saying we don't want you to use the bathroom during this time. But it's like, hey, she probably should use the bathroom during this time, because the baby needs to have those things happen. So the immune system says, let's go. And it also clicks in the baby even more so that I don't want poop and urine on me. So therefore, even changing or potty training or a lot of stuff actually becomes easier because of all the stuff that happens. There's a lot of things that happens when we just do things naturally. And that's why we have to let this word take place naturally in our lives. That being said, if I take any longer, we're probably going to end up being a little late for our Shabbat Shalom service. So I'm going to go ahead and take my leave. We will have a SOC meeting today at 11 a.m. Right after our 11 a.m. Eastern New York time, right after our Shabbat Shalom service on the podcast. And today we're just going to literally just watch something together. And, we got the chat. So if y'all want to make comments and things like that, or if you have a question or something that's for me, maybe we can pause it. If I have something, maybe we can pause it from time to time. But we're just literally going to watch something together and enjoy. And so we can spend a little bit of time together. And then we have our Women in Red tonight. Later on, so that's going to be awesome as well, and we'll be able to spend some time. So when everybody's saying I don't know what to do, or what can I do, or how can I be a part of something, we got something that can connect us and unite us and do all those things. Sure. So if for whatever reason you haven't had a Google Calendar invite, I would say first, please check and make sure that it didn't go to your spam. But if for some reason you didn't get it, get in contact with us. Make sure that we have your email. Make sure we have your phone number, something, or get in contact with us and text us, email us, whatever the case might be, and we'll make sure that we have you listed on that on those links to make sure that you can get them. So as far as the podcast, as far as the podcast is concerned, just all you got to do is have the Podbean app. If you like some tassels and stuff as well, of course, we still have tassels. We'll have tassels available for whenever you don't want them for the foreseeable future. Just let us know about those or contact us about those. As far as the podcast, the Kofi Ofori podcast, all you got to do is just have the Podbean app if you want to join us live. If not, you can always listen to it later or listen to it when we upload it to YouTube. But all you got to do is have the Podbean app. And or even those who are part of the Patreon family, you can always do that as well. But if you have the Podbean app, you can join us live and be part of that and be in the chat and get a word live. Minister Morel once again will be giving us some teaching for today, and we're excited and grateful and thankful. And then he got one more teaching to go after that for the end of this year, and we're excited about that as we get closer. So we're gonna hashtag finish strong. We're in lion mode. We're gonna continue to live inside of that which we have pursued. We're getting ready to transition to start looking beyond what we see, so that we can press and strain towards the mark of the high calling. And we appreciate you guys so much for being part of everything that we're doing. Don't forget again, please, ma'am, please, sir. Let us see you this evening. Women in Red, 7:00 p.m. Eastern New York time. The Zoom link, by the way, if for some reason we have an issue and you don't get the Zoom link, look for us. Hashtag find Kofi, hashtag FINDKOFI. If you're on TikTok, you've probably seen it on almost every single video that we have on TikTok. You'll see hashtag find Kofi. Take that same hashtag and put it in on YouTube, and you'll find our channel. And look in the bottom, and look on our channel. We have a Women in Red. We have the link there, the Zoom link there. We have it on Instagram. We have it on Facebook as well. But if you need more information on that, let us know. And we'll definitely try our best to make sure we got hours and hours and hours beforehand, so we still got time. Let us know. If you're on Facebook and YouTube, you've already got pretty much all our information in the description box. So feel free to go there and get whatever you need from there. If you are on TikTok, all you have to do is look on any of our channels. Thank you for the love. All you got to do is look on any of our TikTok channels and click on the link tree. When you click on the link tree, Look up hashtag Find Kofi for YouTube information, or look up our website, kofi-ofori.com. That's KOFI-OFORI.com. But we thank you guys. We appreciate you. We honor the king and queen in each and every one of you. Even if you're not living inside that kingdom or queendom yet, we appreciate the potential king and queen in each and every one of you. Please check out my wife, the Honorable Maya, on TikTok, YouTube, or website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Thank you for the love, Sister Cynthia. So we appreciate you. We honor you. We look forward to talking to you soon. And as always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken, until we have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again. Please remember, as always, Yashua, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you are fearfully and wonderfully made in you, which is all of us working together. Will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shabbat Shalom. We'll see you guys soon. Peace.